Welcome to my podcast. Today, I'll be previewing the Metropolitan division for the upcoming season. I will go from the weakest team to the strongest team in the division. At number 8, we have the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils had a pretty good offseason, but they will still be last in the division because their division is stacked. They had the number 1 pick in this year's NHL draft and selected Nico Hischier with that pick. GM Ray Shero made 2 trades in the offseason. One was stealing Marcus Johansson from the Washington Capitals, and the other was trading for Mirko Mueller. The offense looks much improved from last season, but the defense is a huge question mark. Key additions are Nico Hischier, Marcus Johansson, Brian Boyle, and Mirko Mueller. Key departures are John Morrell, Jacob Josephson, and Devontae Smith-Pelly. Key players are Corey Schneider, Taylor Hall, Nico Hischier, Kyle Palmieri, Marcus Johansson, Travis Zajac, Adam Henrique, Damon Severson, and Andy Green. The X factor is Pavel Zacha. 7. New York Islanders. The New York Islanders are going to have to rely heavily on their talented young forwards if they want to make the playoffs. Josh Ho-Sang and Anthony Beauvillier will play huge roles on the team this year. Matthew Barzal is going to be the key player for the team this year, as he's likely going to be the second-line center. The Islanders made 2 major trades in the offseason. First trade was acquiring Jordan Eberle, and the other was trading away Travis Hamonic for a couple. New York Islanders should be fine offensively, but their defense and goaltending is a question mark. Key additions are Jordan Eberle, key departures Ryan Strome and Travis Hamonic. Key players are John Tavares, Jordan Eberle, Brock Nelson, Anders Lee, Josh Ho-Sang, Andrew Ladd, Nick Leddy, and Johnny Boychuk. The X factor is Matthew Barzal. 6. We have the Carolina Hurricanes. The Carolina Hurricanes will be the surprise team in the division. They added Marcus Kruger and TVR via trade. The Hurricanes also traded for Scott Darling and then re-signed him to a long-term extension. They also locked up Jacob Slavin and Brett Pesce to a long-term extension. In free agency, the Hurricanes signed Justin Williams. This gives them a veteran player with playoff experience. Carolina Hurricanes are an up-and-coming team. They will make a strong push for the final playoff spot. Key additions are Marcus Kruger, TVR, Justin Williams, and Scott Darling. Key departures, Eddie Lack. Key players, Jordan Staal, Jeff Skinner, Sebastian Aho, Elias Lindholm, Victor Rask, Jacob Slavin, Justin Falk, Brett Pesce, and Scott Darling. The X factor is Noah Hanifin. 5. The Philadelphia Flyers. The Philadelphia Flyers are going to be a much better team this season because they have more depth on their team. The Flyers had the number 2 pick in this year's NHL draft and selected Nolan Patrick with that pick. They also traded Brayden Schenn for Jori Lehtera and 2 draft picks. Brian Elliott was brought in to replace Steve Mason in goal. The Flyers are a much better team than last season, but they won't make the playoffs because of the division they're in. Key additions, Nolan Patrick, Brian Elliott, and Jori Lehtera. Key departures, Steve Mason, Brayden Schenn, Nick Cousins, and Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. Key players, Claude Giroux, Jacob Voracek, Wayne Simmons, Nolan Patrick, Travis Konecny, Ivan Provorov, Shane Gostisbehere, and Brian Elliott. X factor is Sean Couturier. At number 4, the New York Rangers. The New York Rangers actually got worse in the offseason, but they will still be a playoff team in the East. The big splash this offseason was the signing of Kevin Shattenkirk. They also brought in David Desharnais and Andre Pavlik. The Rangers traded away Derek Stepan and Antti Raanta. They also bought out Dan Girardi and lost Kevin Klein to retirement. The New York Rangers will likely make the playoffs, but they won't make it far in the playoffs. Key additions, Kevin Shattenkirk, David Desharnais, and Andre Pavlik. Key departures, Derek Stepan, Dan Girardi, Kevin Klein, Oscar Lindberg, and Antti Raanta. Players, Henrik Lundqvist, Rick Nash, Matt Zuccarello, Mika Zibanejad, Kevin Hayes, Chris Kreider, Ryan McDonough, and Kevin Shattenkirk. X factor is JT Miller. At number 3, the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Columbus Blue Jackets could very well challenge to be the second best team in the Metro. They took advantage of the Blackhawks roster shakeup and traded Brandon Saad for Artemi Panarin. Panarin gives the Blue Jackets something they haven't had before, a true sniper. Sonny Milano is also expected to make the roster this season. He will give the Blue Jackets more scoring depth up front. The Blue Jackets are a very good team and will make some noise in the playoffs this season. Key additions are Artemi Panarin. Key departures, Brandon Saad and William Karlsson. Key players, Sergei Bobrovsky, Zach Werenski, Seth Jones, David Savard, Cam Atkinson, Artemi Panarin, Nick Foligno, Alexander Wenberg, Boone Jenner. The X factor is Sonny Milano. At number 2, the Washington Capitals. The Washington Capitals got way worse in the offseason and will have to rely on their younger talent this season. The Capitals lost two of their top defensemen in Nate Schmidt and Carl Alsner. They also had to trade away Marcus Johansson because of salary cap reasons. Washington did lock up at getting Kuznetsov, TJ Oshie, and Dmitry Orlov long term. Jacob Vrana is expected to play a big role on the team this year. If the Capitals don't add anyone on defense, they will likely have to play two rookies. The Capitals are still expected to be the second best team in the division because of their star power. Key additions: Devontae Smith-Pelly. Key departures: Marcus Johansson, Nate Schmidt, Carl Alsner, and Justin Williams. Key players: Alex Ovechkin, Nicholas Backstrom, Evgeny Kuznetsov, TJ Oshie, John Carlson, Matt Niskanen, Dmitry Orlov, and Braden Holtby. The X factor is Jacob Vrana. At number 1, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Usually when a team wins back-to-back, their team loses a bunch of key players. While the Penguins did end up losing a few key players, the depth and overall star power on the team makes up for those losses. The Penguins lost Marc-Andre Fleury, Trevor Daley, Nick Bonino, Matt Cullen, and Ron Hainsey in the offseason. To replace Marc-Andre Fleury, they signed Antti Niemi. They also signed Matt Hunwick and Greg McKegg in the offseason. The Penguins are still the team to beat in the NHL, as they have won back-to-back Stanley Cups. Key additions are Ryan Reeves, Greg McKegg, Matt Hunwick, and Antti Niemi. Key departures: Marc-Andre Fleury, Trevor Daley, Nick Bonino, Matt Cullen, and Ron Hainsey. Key players: Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Phil Kessel, Patrick Hornquist, Chris Letang, Justin Schultz, and Matt Murray. The X factor is Jake Guentzel. In my next podcast, I'll be previewing the Central Division for the upcoming NHL season.